Welcome to Hobby Clubhouse, where, in the middle of making the review for the F92 Intercept type, this happened. My cat Hobby chewed up the beam lens, and as you can see here, it looks really bad. So, in this video, I'll talk about how I repaired it, and also share a way to make your beam sabers look fantastic with just some simple work. So, our problem here is that the beam part is a clear piece. If this were any other solid color piece, it wouldn't really be a big problem. We could use plastic plates, or putty, or any number of fillers to make up the missing material. But a clear piece throws all these options out the window. Upon closer examination, the two sandwich beams are bent out of shape, but most of it is still there, which is good. There's a lot of big craters caused by Hobby's teeth biting into the plastic, which we'll need to fix. It's bad, but it could be worse. The first thing we need to do is to secure the two halves that are forking apart. I used a bit of super glue to hold the deformed pieces into the proper position before we start the actual repair. A few dabs of super glue, like the cyanoacrylate glue from 3M, is strong enough to keep the pieces from arching back up. The bit of glue will keep the pieces in their proper position while we use plastic cement to glue the pieces more permanently back together. Both Mr. Hobby and Tamiya produce plastic cements, and both are solvents that break down the plastic and lets the seam melt together. We want the connecting part to be one single material, so it's best not to have a layer of glue that's another material with a different consistency when light passes through. After giving the pieces some time to cure, we now need to fill in the many potholes on the surface. We return to the cyanoacrylate glue and put a bit into the holes. I know I just mentioned the problem of material inconsistency, but cyanoacrylates are relatively transparent and they're really convenient to use as a quick fix for small holes, so I can finish this up quicker and return to making my review. The glue shrinks quite a bit, so when it dries up, sometimes you may need to add a few more layers to fill in the entire hole if the hole is deep. Now that the bit of glue is dried, it's time to sand the piece down and remove all the bits sticking out. I start with 180 grit sandpaper, which is very coarse. And whenever you use coarse sandpaper, you should work very slowly, because each pass takes off quite a lot of material. You want to keep a close eye and examine after each few passes to check if the overall shape is close to what you like. At this point, I'm happy that most of the big bumps have been removed. The shape is good, but the surface is still very scuffed up with a lot of big gashes. So, I move up to 400 grit sandpaper, which is still very coarse, but not nearly as much as 180 grit. Then, I move on to 600 grit to reduce the scuffs even more. Here, you still need to work slowly and keep an eye on the progress, sanding only as much as you need. I check the surface for any holes I miss, and go back with glue to fill them up. I also apply some more plastic cement to help the seam melt together a bit better. I repeat this process until the surface of the beam lens feels straight again and the surface is uniform. Lastly, I go over the whole lens with 600 grit sandpaper so that the surface is the final texture I want, which is a frosty texture, which can hide the repaired holes quite well. This is something you can do to all beam sabers rather than painting. You can take 600 or 400 grit sandpaper and scuff up the surface of a beam part. Doing so gives you a texture like the piece is emitting light, and it's actually very pleasing to look at. So here's the final result, from a lost cause to display ready once again, and that makes a successful repair. I hope this video has been helpful to you, and this is just how I happen to fix things, so it's just one way out of many. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever there's a new Hobby Clubhouse video. And come hang out with us on social media, and I'll see you next time.